Henry's built something there. It looks like something special. They've got quality throughout the pitch. That's the thing about them.
The last team they lost to at that ground was Arsenal, that famous game when with Jorginho.
The crowd factor, the crowd will be on it, man. You know what I mean? They create a lot of noise in that stadium. Not to say that we'll be intimidated by that, but that is another factor that we have to overcome.
If we can beat Villa, that will send a massive statement to not only City, but Liverpool just behind us to the rest of the league.
Hi and welcome along to AFTV. Time to preview the big game that's taking place this week. Aston Villa versus the Arsenal, and it's a huge game. We were actually going to be up there at the ground today, but it's been absolutely chucking it down with rain down here in London. And we made a couple of calls up there to Birmingham and we heard it's even worse. So we thought, you know what, studio. Shelter, right? There will be no shelter on Saturday because we will be up there and it's a huge, huge game against Aston Villa. And here to preview it, we've got Laurie and we've got Turkish. Just a reminder, you'll see me there rocking the Christmas jumper. If you want to get any Christmas gear, click the link in the description right now. You've got to order the stuff before the deadline day, transfer deadline day, so that it gets there on time for Christmas, but makes a great Christmas present, trust me. This is the Invincible. See all the little baubles on it? Henri, Vieira.
It's a nice design, to be fair.
It is. But anyway, talking of nice designs, it's a tough game at the weekend. Two teams that are on form. Two teams that are really on form. I mean, all right, Arsenal, we scraped that win, you could say, against Luton. But it's a very important win, you know what I mean? Went away from home, weren't at our best, but got that last minute winner. Aston Villa before this went away from home to Bournemouth and actually scraped a last minute draw against Bournemouth, which was a bit of a surprise. But at home, they're a different proposition. They're really, really strong. And they proved it with a massive win over Manchester City the other night. And a lot of people are looking at this game and they're saying it's
I was on a
very, very important game.
I watched that game last night against City, and I have to say that they 1-0 actually flatters City. 1-0 doesn't do that game justice as far as Villa were concerned.
They had 22 shots in there.
Yeah, they were by far the better team.
Villa.
They were by far the better team. And they look really good, really imposing. And I think it's like 14 consecutive home wins for them now. So the game on Saturday, I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a real test. Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
100%. I mean, Henry's built something there. It looks like something special. They've got quality throughout the pitch. That's the thing about them. I think they're a team that we can get at, and I'm looking forward to it because they're a team that like to play. And now, listen, Luton did actually play against us, and that's why it was kind of a shock that the game was so tight, but we know goalkeeper mistakes really kept it tight. Against Villa, off the back of them beating City in the manner they did, if we can beat Villa, that will send a massive statement to not only City, but Liverpool just behind us to the rest of the league, because off the back of the way they handle City, teams have beaten City in the past, but no team has beaten City like that. You've seen the amount of records that have been broken, most shots faced against them, no shots in the second half from City. These are all records under Pep Guardiola, not only at City, but Bayern and Barcelona too. So the way they handled City, if we can go there and get the 3 points, it's a massive step in.
Let me be a bit cheeky. Would you take a point?
Nah, I want to go. I think we can beat them.
Oh yeah, we could definitely beat them. I'm saying if we go there and we get a point, I don't want to sound too negative, people, but would you regard that as
if we got a point in the end, I'd be calm with it, but I wouldn't take it before the game because I think we can potentially go and get all three.
It is a chance, like you said, to make a real statement. And the Premier League is, I was talking about this the other day about how difficult it is now. So many difficult grounds to go to as away games. I mean, you used to have the traditional really, really tough assignments at Anfield, at the Etihad, at St James's Park. Now that's a new addition to that. Obviously Old Trafford's always tough to go to Tottenham as Arsenal as well. But now you throw Villa into it as well. Another place where, like you said, 14 games on the bounce. The last team they lost to at that ground was?
Arsenal,
that famous game when with Jorginho and stuff like that. But even that was a tough game, wasn't it? So it's going to be a really, really tough assignment. But I've got some stats here that's going to fill you guys with hopefully a bit of faith for the game, right? So this is our record against Aston Villa. Aston Villa have lost their last 4 Premier League games against Arsenal since winning 3 games in a row without conceding in July 2020 and February 2021. Arsenal have lost just 2 of their last 21 Premier League games against Villa. They've won 12 and drawn 7. So that's again another great record. Yeah. Against no side have Arsenal won more Premier League away games than they have against Aston Villa. 14, the same as they've won against West Ham. Right, so that again, very, very impressive. But as you said, now here's another one. Aston Villa are winless in 8 Premier League games against sides starting the day at the top of the table, which we are at the top of the table. But as you said, they have won their last 14 games. So there's reason for Arsenal to...
There's reason for optimism.
Yeah. And the other thing is, I don't know, this is a weird thing that I'm going to say now, and I don't know if you guys agree. It's almost like it might be a good time to play Aston Villa.
Yeah, I was interested when you said that. Why is that?
Just because... You know, sometimes you go to a place and a team absolutely shocks you. You know they're good, but they shock you at how good they are. Arsenal have seen what they've done to Man City, so there can be no complacency. You know, Mikel Arteta, you know, when they're planning for this game, they're going to know now. They're going to know what's coming. They're going to know it's going to be similar tactics, right? Because, you know, so nothing's going to be of any surprise. And also, we go there in good form. So...
And look, the massive victory they got against City it's unlikely they do that back-to-back. And if they do that back-to-back, then you have to start talking about them as potential candidates for a Premier League title race. Because if they beat the 2 favourites back-to-back, as Arsenal, City were the 2 favourites going into this season, that would go a long way for you know, Aston Villa to really kick on and that belief internally. You know, the Leicester season when Leicester won it. They had big wins along the way that kind of lifted and then continued that momentum. I'm not saying we're far off, you know, potentially, you know, assuming who's going to be in the title race. But if Aston Villa beat City and Arsenal back to back, it would be mad. So it's unlikely that's going to happen. And all of those stats you reeled off, it works in our favour. Even if you look at us individually in isolation, our away form over the last 18 months, the best in the league by far. That's why I won't take a point. That's not to say if it was a draw, I wouldn't, you know, be calm with that, because we know Aston Villa is a tough place to go. But I think we can get all 3. I think the way they play, they set up, you know, they set up open. And yes, we've got some defensive concerns and mistakes in us. Most errors leading to goals in the Premier League. But we've also got a potent attack that's probably, you know, firing at most so far this season in the last few weeks.
I think another thing we have to take into consideration as well, and I noticed this when I was watching the game last night with them and City, was the crowd factor. The crowd will be on it, man. You know what I mean? They create a lot of noise in that stadium. Not to say that we'll be intimidated by that, but that is another factor that we have to overcome, because the crowd definitely play their part.
Yeah. When I take a look at the table, Arsenal currently sitting top on 36 points. Liverpool in second on 34, and Villa 32 points in third. Man City now 6 points behind Arsenal. However, when you look at the fixtures coming up this weekend, I think, you know, you've got to say some favourable, you know, a favourable game for both Liverpool and City. I think City have got Luton at home, and Liverpool, was it Palace they got? It's just switched off of
I think it is Palace. Right? Yeah, Palace away, I think.
Yeah. So, you know, you'd expect those two to win. Yeah, Palace away. 12:30 kickoff again for Liverpool. You'd expect them to win those games. So important that Arsenal get something out of this game.
Listen, if, like you said earlier, Robert, if we can win this game on Saturday, which I firmly believe we've got a very good chance, it would send a massive statement. Massive statement, because Villa, as we said before, 14 consecutive home wins, coming off the back of that, not just beating City, but playing them off the park. Let's be under no illusion. I watched the game. They were by far the better team. They deserved to win by more than just the 1 goal. So off the back of that, if we could go there, having beaten Luton, who put up a lot of resistance, that was a good win. We can go to a place like Villa and get the win. That is serious form.
Okay. Let me ask you, both of you, who is the player? And you can only pick one. And they've got a lot. It's not a fluke that they're playing so well, because when you look throughout their team, they've got a lot of very good players that would get into Arsenal's team, right? But pick one player that you're looking at on Saturday and you're saying, a bit fearful of him from Aston Villa, Turkish.
There's the obvious choice, but I'm not going to go for that. I'm going to go for Leon Bailey.
Who's your obvious choice?
Watkins, yeah. Especially last season, the way he kind of, manoeuvred that first goal against Saliba. And he's kicked on. But Leon Bailey, for me, when he came in high regard. There was a lot said about him. He was quality in Germany. And he didn't really hit the ground running. But I think this season he's really kicked on and he's become a lethal part of their attack. And we saw against City how important he can be as well. And when you look at our defensive setup, that position, our left-back position, their right side, is the position that tends to get targeted because Zinchenko will cut in and leave it open, and there's more space. So I think Leon Bailey is the one that we really need to not allow much space to run into, because if you give him space to run into, he's gonna run into it.
What about you?
Yeah, Leon Bailey's in a rich vein of form and he's scoring goals as well, so he's a definite threat. I kind of narrowed it down to two, which was Ollie Watkins. Yeah, no, I'm getting there. Ollie Watkins or McGinn. Now, I'm a bit like Turkish. Watkins would be the obvious one, so I'm going to go for McGinn because I think he's at the centre of a lot of things that they do well, as he proved last night. And I think that midfield battle will be essential as to who comes out on top.
McGinn, Rice.
I think the battle there that's going to be really intriguing is going to be the battle between Declan Rice and Douglas Luiz, who I think has been outstanding this season. He's also very good at set pieces, good at free kicks. I can see why Mikel Arteta has been trying to sign him for the last couple of transfer windows. And that battle between him and Declan Rice in the middle of the park is going to be a really, really interesting one. Now, the key player for Arsenal, who do you think is going to be key to Arsenal in this game?
Sticking with Declan Rice, the more you spoke about their midfield, McGinn, Douglas Luiz, I think those two are quality players. So if we can, if we can win the midfield battle, I think it goes a long way in winning the game. So I think Declan Rice, if he can put in another 8 out of 10, which has become the norm for him, I think we're strong enough to win that game. The midfield battle is key. McGinn, hella energy, similar to Odegaard, but very different players. But energy-wise, hella energy. Douglas Luiz, puts himself about like a Declan Rice. Obviously, he pops up in the final third too occasionally. So I think if we can nullify their midfields, we'll win the game.
Yeah, the midfield battle is going to be crucial. But given as you've gone Declan Rice, because I did have him in mind, I'm going to go Jesus because he's been very instrumental in the last couple of games. It's not just the goals that he scores, it's the work he does off the ball, the little intricate passes, the little bits of skill that can unlock defences. So if we're going to go to Villa and win, we're going to need some of that sublime ability. So yeah, Jesus for me.
I'm going to go Saka. I think these are the games that, where, because I get the feeling that this is not going to be as open as what you saw with that Man City game. I think it's going to be a much tighter affair. And those are the games that he excels in. He comes with a moment in a game that can turn a game. So I'm going to go for Saka. But as you can see, right across the two sides, we've all picked out great operators without even picking out certain players like your Ollie Watkins, like your Odegaards, like your Salibas. There's so many big names that are going to feature in this game. They've got good players at the back as well. So it's going to be a really, really tough game. Let me just ask you both this. The game during the week, the reason why we were put under so much pressure, because we were 2-1 up, was 2 mistakes by David Raya. Two horror mistakes, really. The first one, I don't know what he's doing. He should, to me, just punched that away. He tried to catch it, got out jumped, and and then the Ross Barkley one got down way too late. I was doing an Invincible podcast. Julian said he should have kicked it away. I mean, I don't know about that.
I saw Martin Keown say a similar thing, actually.
I think
he thought he should have used his feet.
He had enough time to get down, I think, and deal with that. But we do see Edison make a similar mistake to that as well. Yeah. I mean, do we change the goalkeeper for this game and bring back in Aaron Ramsdale, or do you stick with Raya?
It's a good question. I mean, I think the manager is going to stick with Raya. He may look at it like if you put Ramsdale in, then it puts the focus more on the goalkeepers. There's a bit.
But he said the two of them can compete against each other. He said about substituting keepers and that. So the focus is already on the keeper.
No, but it'll be more intense if Ramsdale starts, because the whole world will be looking at that and saying, look, what's he going to do? His every move will be scrutinised down to the most minutest of detail. I think he'll go with Raya, although I absolutely do hear people who said it, they would like Ramsdale to start, because I kind of said a similar thing myself. So, but I do think he'll go with Raya.
I think he'll go with Raya, but he should go with Ramsdale, I think. I'm tired of this conversation too, but even if it wasn't Ramsdale on the bench, if a keeper makes the mistakes that Raya made, you know, in the week, then even if it's Karl Hein or Turner behind him, I'd be questioning whether Raya needs to be dropped. So this ain't a whole Ramsdale love affair for me. I don't really care too much about feelings. Just perform. But Raya hasn't come in and performed consistently enough for us to not have this conversation. And I think best thing for both players is to give Ramsdale a lifeline. It gives him some hope, maybe light at the end of the tunnel. And it gives Raya something to think about, something to, you know, work hard to combat. So I think the best case scenario would be to play both. If he goes with Raya, which we expect, then Ramsdale, and we all know there's no light at the end of the tunnel. We assume that anyway. And Raya's pretty much got a free ticket to the #1 jersey, which I don't believe is right either at the same time.
It's not a meritocracy. And you know what's ironic? I just want to make this point very, very quickly. You know what's ironic about the goalkeepers is that on Saturday we come up against a Villa team with Emi Martinez in goal. And I don't know what, I've had a conversation with you, I don't know what Turkish thinks. But to me, if I'm being honest, I think Emi Martinez is better than both Raya and Ramsdale.
Well, I don't, because, you know, I look on it and I say last season, you've got to base it off of the last season. I know he won the World Cup and he done brilliant at the World Cup, but in the league, Martinez made a lot of mistakes last year in the league, right? Whereas Ramsdale was in the team of the season. He was selected in the team of the season, and that tells you everything you needed to know. I just didn't think...
Raya had the best stats of all goalkeepers last year, but I still think that...
Team of the season, it was Ramsdale, so why change that? I don't know. To me, it didn't need a change, but listen, we'll have to wait and see. I think a lot of Arsenal fans are going to be very nervous with Raya or Ramsdale. That's the problem at the moment. Yeah. Even one that's in goal now, I think it's because of the situation, even one that's in goal, you're a bit nervy. You're thinking, you know... But listen, it's going to be interesting to see who does get the nod for that. Let's get your predictions. Let's start with you, Turkish.
I'm going to go for a 2-1 Arsenal win. Hard fought. I see goals in it. But I think we'll get the job done, man. And it'll be a big win, a big statement. I'm getting more and more confident about this season as games go by.
Right.
Listen, I'm really pulling for the win, but a draw just keeps coming up in my head. I can see it being a Desmond 2-2.
I'm actually going to go, I think I said 2-0, 2-1, sorry, on another show. I'm actually going to go, it's starting to feel tighter and tighter to me, this game. I just get the feeling it ain't going to be that open game that we saw the other night. I'm going to go 1-0 to Arsenal. Tight affair.
I hope you guys are right and I'm wrong. I mean,
1-0 to Arsenal. Like Arsenal, I think you're going to be pretty more defensive than...
Have to be.
A lot, going to be quite wary of the Villa attack. And I do think you made the point of Jesus as well. Him being in the team in these type of games is vitally important. He's playing very well at the moment. He's scoring goals. He's creating things, assists. Yeah. He is looking a handful at the moment. I know we're all sort of focusing on the weapons that Villa have got, quite rightly so, because we're going to face them. But we got some serious weapons, and Jesus is one of them. So it's going to be really interesting to see. Don't forget that game, of course, will be here on AFTV, and there's going to be nobody covering that game like we are doing it, right? We're going to be at the game. We're going to be speaking to fans before and after the game. We're also going to be here in the studio doing our watch along, our starting 11. You don't want to miss that to see what the 11 on both sides is going to be. You get that right here on AFTV. And then after the game, our full-time show, your chance, no matter where you are in the UK or around the world, to get involved and let us know what you thought of the game. Your very own fan cam, no matter where you are. So make sure you get involved with that straight after the game. Thanks very much to Laurie, to Turkish, in the studio in the warmth today. But at the weekend, we'll be up there at Villa Park. Can't wait. It's Aston Villa versus the Arsenal.